Hi everyone. I've recently been delivering some mindfulness training, and one of the things that I thought was particularly helpful was the concept of acceptance, because actually in the situations that we're navigating at the minute, we're literally just having to deal with day by day, moment by moment. And in those moments, we have that choice to accept or to resist and cause ourselves some inner turmoil, some suffering. And by having that mindful awareness, that tuning that mindfulness muscle, that awareness of what's going on in any moment, and being able to drop inwards into our bodies physically, knowing how it feels in that moment, and also mentally what's going on for us mentally. By just observing that, if we then strategically make that decision, I'll choose to accept this as it is because I can't do anything else about it, then we are relieving ourselves of a lot of suffering. If we actually introduce a lot of mental chatter, mental struggle, challenge, feeling of being a victim, really just fighting what's going on, we're actually going to raise our stress levels. And that negative thinking is going to attract more negative thinking. As we've said, you know, that negative thought pattern tends to sort of stick a bit like Velcro and attract more negative thinking. So we can choose to just drop into the body, breathe, taking a few breaths in that moment, and then choosing our response. And I found this particularly helpful last week for me. I mean, this is not by any means third world problems that I'm dealing with here at all. But last week was a challenging week because I had back-to-back meetings all day, and I was struggling a lot with the fact that, you know, my husband was doing everything with the kids, and whilst I was very grateful for his ability to do that, I was struggling with not being able to. And I just stepped back from the situation and chose to accept it. And as soon as I released that inner turmoil, that inner struggle, and relaxed into my body and switched off that stress response, it was just much easier to deal with the situations moment by moment. And what was really inspiring and uplifting was that once I'd chosen to accept, chosen to let go of that inner tension, I found myself coming up with lots of little solutions, because my consciousness expanded in that moment of acceptance, where I was able to see more clearly what was possible. So, and choosing my reactions differently. So, for example, I chose, you know, because I had more space there in mental space. It was more space for creative thinking. So I came up with some ideas about what I could do to manage the week better. So I structured it, you know, so it suited me and my energy levels. So I tried to do things that were energy boosting activities at times of the day when I realised that I needed them. And they could just really be simple things like, you know, just scheduling 5 minutes to go and jump on the trampoline, because one, that makes me feel really good, and I get to do it with my daughter or my son, and so I get that little bit of connection, little bit of outdoor fresh air, and a little bit of exercise. Choosing to have some thoughts around gratitude. I even wrote down to remind myself to think those thoughts in those moments where I knew I'd be sucked into that kind of really low energy, where I'm on those back-to-back calls and I'm kind of trying to concentrate on information that might not actually be that interesting. And you know, and I got out for a few walks in there as well, so I was connecting with nature and trying not to, you know, put my headphones on and do anything that was going to distract me from being in the moment. So we can choose to accept in those situations where we have no choice, you know, we've no choice at the minute that our circumstances are what they are. We're not really able to have the lives that we normally live, you know. We haven't got all those vices. We can't just nip and connect with our friends in the way that we would probably choose to. And so the moment we let go, release that resistance, the moment and release that stress response, that's when we're really giving ourselves a gift, the gift of acceptance versus suffering. So I hope it helps inspire you, and the mindfulness practice is so critical here because we're rewiring the brain to allow us to do this much easier. You know, it's easy for me to sit here saying, oh, you know, choose positive thoughts and, you know, relax and step into your body and release that stress response. But the more we do the mindfulness practice, the easier that becomes, and the more aware we are when we're not in the moment, because that's what we've been like training our brain to do with the practice.